this here. So as we get going today, folks, just let me know if you got any questions while we're going, or feel free to email me after as well. But I wanted to show all of you what I would do if I was sort of creating this project as well. So the first really big steps here are going to be this ideation process of thinking, what do I need as far as my requirements? What am I being asked? And what are the steps in order for me to get there, right? So as far as requirements go, I kind of made it pretty loose. I want to see you at least have, somehow a drawing or some kind of description in your work of a plant, one figure, one animal of some kind, and one interior or exterior space. And we're going to put a lot of the emphasis on transparency and layers. And we're also keeping in mind, we're not going to try to have any empty or white space in this drawing. So this is just taken straight from the PDF of the project outline here. The first step here is for all of you, close your eyes and really think about a particular childhood memory that maybe has resurfaced in the last couple of weeks, since we've all been, kind of away from campus here. Anything that's kind of come to mind, and write that out on paper, and try to write down as many details that you can remember. And it doesn't have to be anything, extraordinary by any means. It can be something very sort of plain every day, but just really try to focus in on some of these things. And for me, when I did this process a little bit last night, I started thinking about, and I've thought about this a few times for whatever reason since I've been home. I've been thinking about Halloween a lot. And I remember when I was a kid how, sort of special Halloween and stuff was. And that idea of costumes and masks and candy. And, I grew up in the 90s. So, and I was able to find actually a photo of myself and my sisters at Halloween just on my social media. So I might use that as reference point at some moment throughout my sketches and things too. But you're more than welcome to, folks, after you get a list of things down, you might want to try to look out online and see if you can find some images, or look around your house or wherever you are, or your phone, or scroll through, your Instagram stories or whatever, to see if you can find some imagery that might help spark some other ideas. But this was a quick list that I made from my memory of sort of closing my eyes here. Was fall trees and all the leaves in Michigan. I remember like how there was a lot of broken sidewalks. Everything was much bigger than I remember. So I might try to play with scale shifts a little bit in my drawing. And I just remember like Power Rangers was like all I ever thought about when I was a kid. And I remember like constantly just Disney items and stuff in my house, or hearing songs and stuff at my friend's house or going to school. I remember playing around with cardboard and stuff a lot when I was a kid, cardboard boxes for whatever reason. And then I remember my whole family, we kind of grew up in a really small house. So I might think about maybe an interior, exterior space that I can remember from that first house that I remember that we all lived in when I was growing up until about 10 years old. And then I also wrote down here just some dreams and things that I've had just generally speaking, the last few weeks. I've had really vivid, like robbery and car chase dreams, a lot of dreams with tigers. And it's probably because I just finally watched Tiger King, which was hilarious and super sad in a lot of different ways. But teaching classes in my kitchen has been in my dreams and things as well, because it's very much my reality right now. I've had some dreams about maybe getting a cat, specifically like a Sphinx cat, like those sort of naked cats or those hairless cats. I've thought about those a lot for whatever reason. I keep looking at like Nerf guns and things online because they've really gotten so much more advanced than even I remember when I was a kid. And those have been in my dreams a little bit. But overall, like all my dreams have been really surreal. So I'm going to think about that when I try to come up with some sketches and stuff. I have dreams about like forests and trees and things as well. So that might be the moment where the plant, because I've got to include one plant of some kind, and that could be a huge tree. But also I've had some dreams that are really like foggy and misty, and it might be because I'm in the Pacific Northwest right now. And these things, we get a lot of rain and then it gets kind of misty and foggy. So that might help out with some of my layering and things too later on in my sketches here. But that's just a quick list of some things that I might be able to pull imagery and things from. And I do just have a couple reference images here of the upper photo. There's my sisters, and I see like the Disney like Minnie Mouse shirt my sister's wearing, and the Winnie the Pooh shirt. We were at some gathering, and that was just one of my favorite pictures of my sisters when we were growing up. So the next thing to do here, folks, number 2 here, is you're going to start sketching small, or you might even potentially create a collage that could be based off of any of these things that came up to you. And like I said, think about your dreams and things as well. And when you sort of nod off, or if you daydream a little bit, just kind of keep note of what these things are and just write out what they are in words, and then try to make them into imagery. And we'll talk about that process here in a second. But now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start some sketching. And what I always like to remember, specifically for this project, is that I'm going to try to layer, things throughout my final work. But even in my sketches, I'm just going to go really, really quick and loose. And I'm going to think about my list and kind of actively keep that in front of me here. So all I'm going to do right now, folks, is I'm just going to do some quick kind of thumbnail sketches here of what I might do. So I'm just going to blast out some different shaped rectangles and squares, and these will kind of serve as some thumbnail sketches. And this is a good moment where I like to work out, compositional things of what I might try to do when it comes to my final drawing. But I'm just going to make a bunch of these and just kind of challenge myself here. So I'm going to look at my list. It says like fall trees and leaves in Michigan. So maybe I might have, and I'm just going to do like little tiny scribbles here. Like these might be leaves sort of falling through the drawing somehow. I might have in my drawing a huge pile of these things. And when you're sketching, for all of you, just try to keep in mind, you're not trying to be super accurate by any means, but maybe there's something that will happen with, your drawing where you're like, oh, I kind of like the way that looked. But I'm just thinking about these trees and these leaves that I remember as a kid. So I might sprinkle through as a layer in my drawing. There might be leaves somehow that I could draw. So I'm just making some marks here. So maybe some drawings, maybe a big pile of leaves. This idea of like broken sidewalks and things as well happens. So maybe there's something I can do where I put some kind of sidewalk in here as well. And maybe one of these things is really like cracked and broken. And maybe that's just kind of floating in the space, and I can figure out sort of what else to do there. But maybe this goes out back into space a little bit. Put a big like tree, stump of a tree down here. Maybe this is a tree. Got these leaves coming down still. Everything is bigger than me. So maybe if I do put myself in here as a figure, potentially maybe I have myself like poking out of, this, these leaves or something as a kid. So maybe I just put like, maybe that this area could be like, I'll just make this a little bit darker, but maybe this is like, myself somehow. And I maybe have a little hood on, maybe a little ball cap. I'm just sketching this in here really roughly. And maybe I'm playing in these leaves as a kid. Let's see what else. And I'm going to move to another quick sort of thumbnail, because I can take this. This could be one layer for one of these other drawings. But let's see about this like Disney and Power Rangers kind of idea. So I have this image of sort of an actual Halloween moment that I'm just going to use as a reference really quick. And I'm going to think, what if I sort of drew, a version of myself in this homemade sort of cardboard cutout, Megazord moment here, where maybe I'm really, really big, to sort of flip that idea of scale. Maybe in my drawing, maybe this is me on the side here. And maybe I still have some of those leaves and things, but maybe I'm battling, potentially, let's say this is my sword. Maybe I'm battling like, a tiger or something in my drawing. Or maybe, it's a big, large, like Sphinx cat or something. So maybe I'll put like, in the shadows behind me, maybe there'll be like a big sort of tiger figure here in the background or something that's trying to maybe attack me somehow. But I'm just roughly sketching this stuff in because I'm just getting ideas flowing right now. So I'm just kind of think maybe this is me here. Maybe I'm gonna battle. And while I'm doing this too, I'm just gonna make some notes about like maybe it's a battle. Maybe my drawing is gonna be all about the fall or the season. And I'm gonna continue to look at my words here, like Disney and cardboard things. So like I'll look at this photo of my sisters up here, and maybe they're gonna become, a layer where maybe my sisters will be kind of down in the corner, very similarly posed, and I'll use that photo as reference, but maybe they're just kind of down here, and they have their t-shirts here, the bows and different things. Winnie the Pooh moment, and then like what could I put in the background? So like maybe I use that photo as reference, and then I go back to my dreams and I go like, okay, maybe there's a robbery or a car chase happening in the background of where this work from, this will be both of my sisters here. Just kind of, so maybe there's, maybe I rock this kind of like foreground background thing, but I might make this look like a snapshot from the 90s, but in the background there's a robbery happening. So that's kind of like a weird idea where I'm taking two of my influence and just slamming them together. So maybe like this is a curb, and maybe there's a building back here. Maybe there's people running out of this building that I could draw in later. Maybe they're running out. Maybe there's money flopping around, and maybe this person's got a big bag. And then again, maybe the leaves come in from the fall. So I'll make some of these leaves really quick, just kind of thinking about that stuff. Maybe there's leaves and money, and maybe, the getaway car might be, behind here, potentially, maybe the curb. We just see like the license plate for the car and things. Maybe this person's going to go, to the getaway car, and they're going to leave, and then there's just a photo, the foreground's just my sisters hanging out for some reason. Like that's a really strange idea. Put some buildings in here, maybe the bank's back here. Put some stairs, maybe sort of an entryway. And then what's nice too, folks, is like once you get some sketches going, when you start your final drawing, you could actually go, use the internet and things and find some reference images if you want to work from reference like that. If you want to actually find like a bank, an image of a bank, if I'm going to do this kind of bank robbery sort of thing. So let me write this down, robbery. Let's keep moving with ideas here. One bedroom house. I remember when I grew up, and let's see, forest and tall trees and things. So maybe that's an idea where I have like, I can find an image potentially of, the house that I grew up in. And then maybe as, I remember there was like two windows and it was really tiny. We had like a little staircase thing that was another little entry. We had a dirt sort of driveway. But maybe there's some huge trees or something in the background where, maybe I'll put these in here. Just kind of blast in some trees. We didn't live in a forest by any means, but this is again me combining these ideas together. So maybe there's some kind of drawing I could do of, that house in a forest, and then maybe there's some other thing happening in the foreground. Maybe maybe I bring in my like Megazord idea again, and maybe like we just see like the foot of this Zord sort of figure. Maybe there's this gigantic kind of like, I remember one of them was like, maybe it's not the foot necessarily, but maybe I just think about these like robotic kind of things. One of them was like a woolly mammoth, I remember. So maybe there's a huge like woolly mammoth or something in the foreground. And then when I layer these, I just got to remember like there's house, forest of some kind, and then a mammoth. And then all of a sudden, as you're working in this kind of process, even just with your sketches, you're really going to start to realize like this drawing's probably going to feel very surreal because what you're trying to do is you're trying to pull from these different sources, um, from your memories and your dreams, and those things might not always be super accurate. But one of the other challenges here is that we are trying to really trying to layer these things together. So I could get to a point too where, let's say I only have these like 4 thumbnails, and now I can take what's here with these 4, and then I can start combining them even more. So imagine that, I'm going to just draw this out again. I'm going to imagine here, if I took the robbery snapshot moment, like let's say I still keep my sisters kind of in the corner here, this drawing of them. I'm just going to do this really quickly. I'm just sketching this stuff out. Maybe there still is a street kind of behind there, but maybe this is a curb, and maybe we have sidewalk, because I did mention that broken sidewalks earlier. So maybe there's like one of these pieces of the sidewalks like really raised up, and maybe the tiger moment that I keep having these weird dreams about tigers and animals and stuff. Potentially, maybe their tiger, is on a leash or something, which I don't know. Maybe it's like just kind of hanging out. Maybe there's some big, huge Bengal tiger over here, and I'm just sketching this out. But maybe like the tiger's maybe my sisters have the tiger on a leash or something here, and maybe that pile of leaves that I drew in this other work is back here. Maybe I'm in the background a little bit with my hat on, sort of poking out with my legs here, my hands, and maybe I'm like have a sword in my hand or something, and maybe the robber or the sort of criminal person, whoever's doing this robbery, is running, and I'm just making notes here for myself. And it's okay to do sketches in this way, because when I get more detailed and defined, I'll probably use some kind of photographic reference to kind of push along some of the details and stuff. But maybe this person's, maybe they have like a gun and there's like a shootout or something happening in the back, and this cat is just here in the foreground hanging out. But we're gonna keep combining ideas here, based off of what I have here as reference. So maybe I have my kind of Megazord situation here. Just throw this in here. And maybe the house that I grew up in is like the whole chest area of this like robot figure. So maybe the house I grew up in is now part of this like sort of Zord figure here. I got the little sort of stairs on the side. And maybe, I still have this like weapon or sword situation. Maybe it goes off the composition a little bit. And let's see, let's say like this might be the legs potentially. And then like I can play around with the scale shift. And maybe there's a bunch of little tiny cats like trying to, an army of these Sphinx cats or something. And there's just a ton of them. And I'll just do this really quick to kind of put in. Maybe there's a bunch of cats like crawling up me like World War Z style trying to battle me, and that could be a layer of this drawing. And then maybe in the background I have some of those trees and things that I referenced earlier to help sort of fill in the gap of some of that space. But these are just strange ideas, that were happening. I could continue forward with this process and do as many thumbnail sketches really as I wanted. But you will get to a point where you land on something that you're enjoying quite a bit, because I still have so many other things because of that journaling process I did. I still could create a work where maybe there's a Nerf gun shootout moment with the robbery, and you're just thinking about, this is like you're throwing all your ideas in a blender, and this is how you kind of breed imagery or ideas. So I could do a Nerf gun shootout robbery moment, and maybe there's these broken sidewalk things, but maybe maybe the sidewalks don't, fit the ground. Maybe they're like floating in the space, kind of like Shel Silverstein sort of style, where these things are, maybe broken, and maybe this is the bottom part of the ground, and maybe, maybe there is this sort of shootout with these Nerf guns and things, and I'll just draw like one of these Nerf gun sort of bullets, or it was like sticky bullets coming from somewhere, and there might even be some small ones stuck to the bottom of the sidewalk, or maybe there's that mammoth figure is coming through here. Maybe I'm just working on the fly here, folks, but maybe there's like a big woolly mammoth kind of situation where the mammoth's underneath the sidewalk somehow in this drawing, and maybe someone's riding the back of the mammoth, or you know, maybe my sisters again show up and they're just like hanging out on the sidewalk up here, like confused because they're in that image, like they're just kids, so they're just like, what's going on here? Maybe my sisters are up here. But you know, you can kind of get an idea, folks, from this, just the early sketching process of, you know, how you would combine some stuff. And then you just want to keep reminding yourself, you got to go back to your requirements a little bit too. So like, I have to get a plant in there, figure, that might be the image, you know, the drawings of my sisters, the animal might be the woolly mammoth, the interior exterior, that might be, you know, this outdoor kind of moment where there's a sidewalk, and then maybe, you know, I blend those ideas instead going interior and exterior. Maybe this sidewalk, you know, turns into the interior of like the kitchen area of, I remember, you know, from when I was young, maybe there's like little sink kind of spot, and then we're kind of inside and outside, and it's just so strange because again, you're working from your memories and your dreams a little bit. Maybe this is like a nice little window situation. Maybe I have a plant back here. Maybe got some cupboards, and maybe there's stuff falling out of the cupboards back here. There's plates and things that are broken and crashing down, and maybe there's, you know, cups and things too that have fallen out of, maybe there's liquid pouring out of these things. You know, there's, you should kind of just really keep in mind, folks, is that, you know, these are your dreams, your memories, and just see what happens when you start to combine this stuff together, and and see what happens, you know, here. But let me I'm gonna go ahead and end this recording.